The entire state is either under a winter weather advisory or a winter storm warning. Temperatures are going to be huge for us, especially the roads.
I have a thermometer. I can check the road temperature as well.
Governor Roy Cooper says the state is as ready as they can be for what's expected to be a statewide event.
The Triangle's #1 source for news. This is WRAL, coverage you can count on.
The winter weather we've all been waiting for is here. We're watching the dual Doppler 5000, now the green representing rain, but you can see that pink line of snow moving into our viewing area, and it will continue to across a large part of our area. This is a live look now at Roxborough. The snow is coming down there. We've also seen it coming down right outside our studios.
That's right, and we see Apex right here. You can see the snow falling heavily in downtown Apex, and as the snow continues to fall, it could cause some dangerous driving conditions. As a result, some schools have already announced they will be closing. This is a list of the closings. You can see the full list on WRAL.com. Our crews are spread out across the state as we wait for this snow system to materialize.
And we have team coverage to keep you prepared as this winter weather continues to move through our area. Meteorologist Mike Mays in the WRAL Severe Weather Center now. Mike?
Now at 4, a new video shows a microburst blowing through a school gymnasium as children run for cover.
Part of the roof here at Union Intermediate School is gone, and only WRAL has an exclusive interview with one of the 3 students who was injured.
It just sounded like something exploded in there.
So how long will the school be closed?
And this front is still stuck over top of us. When does it finally clear, and when do we finally have some dry weather? I'll let you know coming up.
Investigators say a 15-year-old girl was grabbed from her bus stop here in Zebulon and raped. Her family speaks out about the terrifying ordeal.
The Triangle's #1 source for news. This is WRAL, coverage you can count on.
Shocking video from inside a Sampson County school when a microburst hits a gymnasium. Look at this, children playing on the floor as a gust of wind knocks out a wall and hurls a metal pipe through the wall as children run for cover.
The school released this video today. WRAL's Gilbert Bays talked exclusively with one of the 3 students injured in this storm yesterday. Gilbert joins us live outside Union Intermediate School. Gilbert?
Deborah and Gerald, there's only one thing more incredible than that footage that you've shown already, and that is being one of the 3 students who was injured and was inside that gymnasium when the storm happened.
Across the road into the woods.
Did you hit your arm, your leg, your back? Give me a list of things. Who was in there when the storm happened. She suffered some minor injuries yesterday. I talked with her and her mother this afternoon. In that video, she told me that she was standing to the left not far from the stage. Now, bricks and debris started flying everywhere, and the crews spent the day cleaning up the mess. Chloe is in the 5th grade, and she is one of the students who says she can't believe that the gymnasium was blown to bits.
It was our PE day. We were playing basketball, and it just sounded like something exploded in there. So I just turned around and was looking at the stage, and it collapsed. And then we started running, and something hit me from behind, and I fell down. And then the glass started breaking.
Now, Chloe's mother says her daughter has bruises on the back from the impact of whatever hit her. And she says when she saw her at the hospital, she was conscious, but she had a neck brace on. That had to be frightening. They drove by the school this morning and saw the debris. And Carolyn Brewer says God had his hands around her daughter and all the students here at the school. I talked with the principal as well, and she looked at the footage, and she said she started crying when she saw that. Pretty amazing. Deborah and Gerald, she says, had that storm happened today, at the exact time that it happened yesterday, there would have been 450 students inside that gym during an assembly meeting. And boy, she just dreads to think what the outcome would have been if that wind had blown through at that time. Just an incredible situation.
No one wants to think about that. It was scary enough as it was. Gilbert Bays, live in Sampson County. Thank you, Gilbert.
Unbelievable. Good thing those kids got out of there as quickly as they did. Fortunately, we are seeing nothing like that today.
Meteorologist Kat Campbell is in the WRAL Severe Weather Center, tracking just some spotty rain now. People are even seeing some sunshine.
Right. It's a much, much different picture this afternoon.
America is fighting 2 viruses. We are fighting the novel coronavirus. but we are also fighting an age-old virus of racism.
I would never expect anything like this to happen in Raleigh.
We don't have to burn our city down. We work here.
We also need the injustice to be addressed, but we also need love to prevail.
And we start with breaking news at 4 o'clock. The unrest continues across the Triangle and around the country after the death of George Floyd. For the past few hours, protesters blocked the Durham freeway, but now traffic has reopened. Hello and thank you for joining us. I'm Gerald Owens.
And I'm Deborah Morgan. Catherine joins us in a moment. Protests like the one we saw in Durham today have been happening across North Carolina for 3 straight days. Some started as peaceful, yet turned violent, leading to curfews for several communities, including in the city of Raleigh. A live report on that in just a few minutes. First, to this breaking news we've been showing you live during the past hour. WRL's Sarah Kruger is live in Durham to tell us about the protest that blocked a major highway for a time. Sarah?
Deborah, a few dozen protesters met here in this parking lot around 1 o'clock this afternoon. And from here, they marched through East Durham and over to 147. In doing so, they had one mission: to get a meeting with Police Chief Davis and Sheriff Burkhead, and they have accomplished that mission, and so the protest has now dispersed. Let's show you some video of that protest. They marched again from here in East Durham to 147, where they blocked all lanes of traffic on 147 near Alston Avenue for roughly 30 minutes. They did not move from 147 until Chief Davis and Sheriff Burkhead agreed to an in-person meeting to discuss over policing and other community issues. While protesters were on 147, an officer on the scene handed a phone over to one of the organizers. He said Chief Davis was on the line and they had a conversation. So according to that organizer, they worked it all out, and there will be a meeting on Friday with that organizer and some other community leaders and Sheriff Clarence Burkhead, as well as Police Chief Davis. Now, I want to mention that from what I saw here this afternoon over several hours, there were no arrests. It remained incredibly peaceful, no destruction of property. The organizer here really stressed that he did not want anything to turn violent. He said he did not want to burn down buildings. He wanted to burn down racism. Deborah.
Sarah, did the protesters meet with any of the other city officials?
So when we got back here to this parking lot, Mayor Steve Schewel was here, and he was talking with an organizer. So that I certainly did see happen. As far as any other city or county leaders that they may meet with, I have not heard anything on that. But again, the big ask today was really that meeting with the police chief and the sheriff, and I'm told that will be happening on Friday.
Sarah Kruger live in Durham. Thanks, Sarah.
Now at 4, the city of Raleigh is taking action after angry, frustrated protesters became violent over the weekend. WRAL was on the air for hours documenting these moments. Now, the events protest the death of George Floyd. They began peacefully, but some people took it too far by destroying businesses. Now, after 2 straight nights of these protests, a citywide curfew goes into effect at 8 p.m. WRAL's Cullen Browder is live in downtown Raleigh to tell us what this all means. Cullen?
Well, Gerald, it means everyone, with very few exceptions here in Raleigh, is expected to be off the streets from 8 p.m. until 5 a.m. Consider all those businesses already impacted by the COVID-19 restrictions. They will have to shut down during that time. All these businesses, with all this damage behind all this plywood, is the reason. On 2 nights, passionate, peaceful protests against police brutality turned brutal themselves with vandalism and looting.
We need to make sure that we are not destroying the very things we're trying to stand up for.
Corey Branch, Raleigh's mayor pro tem and only African-American councilman, fully backs the protest message, not the violence.
I pray we do not have to do this night after night after night, but we have to take a pause.
That pause will be a Raleigh curfew from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. Everyone is expected to stay home and off the roads, with the exception of public safety, medical, active military, utilities workers, and journalists. Businesses, including grocery stores and restaurants, must close. Those who violate the order face a Class 2 misdemeanor, which carries a maximum 60 days in jail and a $1,000 fine. After looting both Saturday and Sunday nights, ransacked his business, Alan Horwitz of Reliable Jewelry and Loan argues the curfew comes too late.
2 nights in a row is 2 nights too many, and I think something should have been done earlier. More enforcement, the National Guard.
So not everyone is on board with this curfew. Some council members were hesitant, and the ACLU put out this statement this afternoon, quote, combined with the aggressive show of military force and the troubling accounts of excessive force by police, curfews repeat the violence and brutality at the root of protests. Mayor Mary Ann Baldwin had no further comment today. We also reached out to Raleigh Police for clarity. So far, we have not heard back. Gerald.
All right, Cullen Browder live in Raleigh. Thank you, Cullen.
Now we have some breaking news as dozens of protesters are marching through downtown Raleigh once again. This time they're at the Raleigh Convention Center. That's where we find WRAL's Joe Fisher. Joe, you followed the protest last night. Tell us about what's happening there now.
Deborah and Gerald, we just got downtown in the past 15 minutes and found this group of about 50 protesters marching down Salisbury Street. Right now, they have stopped down in front of the Raleigh Convention Center, many of them with signs that we are reading here saying, "We the people have a new American dream." They were chanting Black Lives Matter as they passed in front of the Justice Center, where several deputies were standing guard. We know that the Justice Center here in Raleigh was damaged last night, but you're looking at this crowd, very peaceful. They marched down Salisbury Street in the past 5 minutes or so before stopping down right here at the steps of the Raleigh Convention Center. We're not quite sure what their plan is, if they can plan to stop here for a while or continue marching, but this is the third night of protests here in downtown Raleigh. This is, you know, typically how we have seen things starting, very peaceful, people with signs coming, just chanting and standing up in opposition to police brutality. And of course, this all comes after the death of George Floyd and these protests that we have seen night after night here in downtown Raleigh. This is the third night, and I can't help but notice that as we were headed here following the protesters, we were actually seeing so many of these businesses still, you know, boarding up their windows, still cleaning up, not only from Saturday night, but last night. A lot of broken out windows up and down several streets after we saw a whole lot more vandalism. And you have this gentleman coming behind us. But you see this sign right here. We stand with you. So we're going to follow these protesters, stay with them, and see what they're going to be up to for the next little bit here. Back to you.
Joe, have they mentioned anything to you about the curfew and their feelings on that? Do they plan to abide by the curfew?
Deborah, that's a good question. Like I mentioned, we just got down here in the past 15 minutes, and we could try to come talk to them live on the air to try to get a sense for that as we kind of show you. This is about, let's say, 60 people, maybe 70 people. Sir, were you here previous protests? Is this your first night?
I'd rather not talk to the media. Thank you so much for
No problem. Thank you so much. Appreciate you guys a lot. And we're trying to talk with some of these people who actually have come out with signs. Is this your first night, or have you been out before?
We came out Saturday as well.
And then you did not come out last night, but you're back here today.
Yep.
Talk about why you came back for a second night of protesting.
I mean, it's an important thing, and it means a lot to us, especially being part of the LGBT community. They did it for us. You know, it was 5 days of riots, and the voices need to be heard.
We know here in the city of Raleigh that tonight there's an 8 o'clock curfew. Have you heard about that curfew?
Yes.
And do you plan to follow it?
Yes.
And have you gotten a sense from the people you're marching with here today that they also plan to follow that?
Absolutely. It's completely peaceful. Completely peaceful.
Can you kind of paint a picture for me? Is this one group that organized on social media? How did this all come together? Because you guys are down here pretty early.
As far as we know, we just showed up. Yeah, we just showed up. We're actually from Fayetteville, so we drove up for it.
You drove more than an hour to be here?
Yep.
Wow. And you as well drove from Fayetteville?
Yep.
And, I mean, talk about what you plan to do over the next couple of hours here before that curfew kicks into effect at 8 o'clock.
I'm going to be out here chanting, standing with everybody, making sure that their voices are heard, because that's what's important to me.
Very good. Thank you, ladies. Appreciate you so much talking to us. And you're hearing the honks that are going by on Salisbury Street. Again, we're right in front of the Raleigh Convention Center as this crowd chants and holds their signs. And like you just heard from these two women here, they did hear about that 8 o'clock curfew. They plan to follow it and say that the group plans to follow it as well.
We will keep checking in with you. Joe Fisher live in downtown Raleigh. Thanks, Joe. Well, Raleigh Demands Justice members held a news conference this afternoon condemning the actions of the Raleigh Police Department, including their handling of incidents over the weekend. The coalition, made up of leaders from several organizations, including Carolina Peace Center, is calling for a stronger oversight board of the Raleigh Police Department, an end to over-policing, and for more resources to be put on health care in underserved communities. The leaders of the coalition say if those demands are not met, they're calling for the immediate removal of Chief of Police Cassandra Deck-Brown.
It is time for her to go. No longer will we sit idly by while the citizens are brutalized. No longer will we remain silent while she remains silent to the injustice.
The coalition is asking for members of the Raleigh community to attend tomorrow's council meeting to demand the changes.
Good afternoon. I'm Mark Boyle in the Live Center here today. We did not hear from Governor Roy Cooper during the COVID-19 task force that the state held this afternoon, but we did hear from other officials, including Dr. Mandy Cohen. All of them addressed the protests. All of them talked about many of the protesters being out there wearing masks and face coverings due to the COVID-19 situation that is still gripping the nation and the state here. Dr. Mandy Cohen also talking about how there are new programs now in the works to help underserved and minority communities.
While we cannot undo the harm that communities of color have suffered, we can act. And I cannot walk in the shoes of any person of color, but I can use my place of privilege and power to do better. One small down payment.
We'd like to show you the numbers right now, where things stand across the state. The first graph has been updated with the laboratory confirmed cases, 29,263. That yellow line, the average, still moving in the up direction. However, the numbers have fallen recently, so that could change here shortly. The number of completed tests still high, but you see that's leveling off. And finally here, this number right here, currently hospitalized, 650. If you watch this yellow line, we talked about it as well. It was trending up, but it appears over the past few days that average is moving in the down direction, something that state officials have been looking at very closely. So that certainly is some good news to report today. Back to you.
Mark, thank you. Republican legislative leaders are criticizing Democratic Governor Roy Cooper's response to the riots. They say Cooper needs to send a stronger message that they will not be tolerated. House Speaker Tim Moore calling on Cooper to mobilize the National Guard's military police force to help enforce the curfew in Raleigh. WRAL Capitol Bureau Chief Laura Leslie live now in downtown Raleigh with that story. Laura.
Catherine, House Speaker Tim Moore stressed today that he is not talking about the peaceful demonstrators who protested the killing of George Floyd. He said they are not to blame for the destruction that followed them. But after 2 nights of riots in the capital city, he said lawlessness can no longer be tolerated. House Speaker Tim Moore posted a video to Facebook Saturday night from the balcony of his downtown apartment. He said he could smell the tear gas and could hear gunfire and breaking glass.
It's one thing to see it on TV. It's one thing to read about it in the paper or see it online. But it's an entirely different experience to be there literally watching it unfold in front of you. As a citizen, powerless to do anything to stop it.
Moore said he advised Cooper to call in the National Guard earlier Saturday after seeing riots in Charlotte on Friday. But Cooper didn't bring in the Guard till the following night. He also thinks Cooper has not communicated forcefully enough that rioting and looting would not be tolerated.
You know, I don't want these things to be political, but I do take serious issue with the way our governor has handled this.
Moore is calling on the governor to fully mobilize the National Guard in Raleigh and other cities tonight to provide support and resources for overstretched local law enforcement as they attempt to enforce curfews.
When there are soldiers there with a Humvee, with weapons, these rioters and looters, they think twice before messing with something right there.
Now, Governor Cooper's spokeswoman, Dory McMillan, said that the governor did call in the Guard at Charlotte's request on Saturday. It was requested here on Sunday. She sent us this statement in response to what those leaders are saying tonight. Governor Cooper has spoken with mayors across North Carolina and has fulfilled requests for state support, including help from the State Highway Patrol, SBI, ALE, and National Guard. While we must ensure the important call for change isn't lost amid escalating tensions, violence and destruction are unacceptable and must stop. Back to you, Catherine.
Laura Leslie live in downtown Raleigh. Laura, thank you.